It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome inside the Cogswell Motors Studios, home of RiverValleyLeader.com. We appreciate you joining us today. Don't have anybody in the chair with me. Don't have any guests lined up for the day. That means you get a lot of my opinion today on the Sports Blitz. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us. Mark Freeman and Emily Young. Here I am breaking everything. I seem to always hit this microphone, and it's just because I'm kind of squirrely, so apologize for that. We are here to bring you the latest in local, state, and national sports, and as I mentioned today, you're going to get a whole lot of my opinion on stuff. It's just good for me to every once in a while. It's therapeutic for me to just get my thoughts out there. It's sort of like when we talk about Johnny Manziel a lot of the time. I'll let people go with how great he is. Brad talk about how he should win the Heisman again, and then I tell people that he's crazy. There's no way he's going to even be invited. Sounds like, from what I'm reading, and we'll go over here in a little bit, I may be wrong with the fact that he won't be invited. I still find it very, very hard to believe that no matter what he does, he would be able to win the Heisman. So we'll look at that here in a little bit. I promised you on Monday our power rankings for the NFL to show you our top five, and when you hear my top five, you're going to think, what in the world? I've only got one, possibly two teams, if I can remember correctly, from my original power rankings that are still in it, both in different places, and three teams that were in the original out of it all together. And this is just basically what's going on right now. If the NFL were ranked by how well teams are doing, what have you done for me lately, this is where these teams would be. I left off the Kansas City Chiefs, so I'm sorry for those of you that are Chiefs fans. They have been impressive, and they did beat my Cowboys, so I have to give them that. But we'll see. It's one of those, wait a couple weeks. I know their defense is very good, and I know Alex Smith is playing very well, and he's so frustrating to watch, though. He doesn't make any sort of spectacular play, but he never makes the dumb play for the most part. He doesn't throw interceptions, but then again, he won't take a chance ever. So he's the check down king. And so I'm not really impressed by what he's done for the Kansas City offense other than just being a stabilizing force. So here in a few weeks, if they're able to run off some more wins, they'll be in the top five probably in my power rankings, but they aren't as of today. We'll go over those here in a little bit. Also want to look at some college football. We mentioned the Heisman Trophy that we'll talk about here in a little bit, but there are some big games. LSU, Georgia, the highlight, and Texas A&M, Arkansas. Our Peters Family Living poll question today deals with the University of Arkansas and the game this Saturday against Texas A&M. You've got a 3-point spread. Now, we know gambling's illegal, and we are not advocating sports gambling, but it does make you think, because those people in Vegas, those guys, the odds makers, they know what they're doing. They understand how they have to go about their business to make money. And really what they want, and for those that don't understand it, and I didn't until just a few years ago, what they were doing, because I never was a bettor, but what they're doing when they set that line with Texas A&M favored by 3 points is they're trying to get exactly the same amount of money coming in betting on Arkansas as betting on Texas A&M. So they're saying Texas A&M to win by 3 points is a safe enough bet that all the Texas A&M fans that bet, or everybody that would bet for Texas A&M, can be offset by all the people who bet for Arkansas. So that's just fascinating to me that 3 points is going to bring in even betting odds or even money on both sides. That is crazy to me, because if I were to put the odds on it right now, if you put it at 20-some-odd points, anywhere in the 20s, I'd probably say, okay, well, now I can decide one way or the other. But 3 points, to me, we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a little bit and how interesting that is. We'll also look at what Arkansas has to do, really, taking the scope of these odds makers and how they got to this 3-point place. I want to look at what Arkansas has to do to make that a reality, to make it a close game. A 3-point game is a nail-biter. That's a down-to-the-wire game, unless they expect Arkansas to come back flinging the ball at the end of the game, passing, and I don't think they're gonna expect that out of possibly a backup quarterback. We'll talk about the backup role. It looks like A.J. Derby or Brandon Allen is going to take the start. We're not sure yet. If you know, call us, 968-NEWS, 968-6397 is the number, but I've been getting mixed signals from everything I've seen about whether or not Brandon Allen would play. I thought this week, they said he's been taking snaps in practice but hasn't thrown yet. I was told last night by a guy at church that he listened to another statewide radio show, that I wasn't privy to this information, and they said Brandon Allen could be out all year. That's like fourth or fifth hand information, but I just found that very interesting that this injury could be, instead of being out just the rest of a game when he got hurt in the first quarter, it turns into 2 games to where he's not playing against Rutgers, and then more information comes out, he's not throwing all week. Maybe he doesn't play it against Texas A&M. But then if he turns around and can't play, and it's just a long-term injury, I think you're going to hear a lot of outcry from a lot of people about the injury. I want to call it a procedure. It's sort of like the New England Patriots. They've got everybody probable or questionable on their injury report. They don't comment on injuries. If you listen to Bill Belichick yesterday, he's such a jerk with the way he deals with the media. They asked him about a player, I think it was Danny Amendola, and he said, he's inactive. And then they asked him about somebody else, and did he practice? How well did he practice? He's inactive. It's just like he won't even say anything. So it's upsetting to a lot of media members, and you think that's upsetting to some media members when he's standing in front of you and telling you somebody's inactive. Wait till you get Arkansas fans and Arkansas media on you if Brandon Allen's injury goes from being just a short little, okay, he'll be back in a couple weeks once he can regain everything, to he's out for the year. If that were to happen, and I'm not saying that he is injured that badly, but if these people's information is true, boy, you're going to see some outcry from some folks who are very upset that they didn't get this information. And you want to see somebody on a radio show with a microphone that's a little upset, you'll be finding this guy sitting in this chair talking about why Austin Allen wasn't playing. I will be furious, and I will let you have it, Brett Bielema. I will let the University of Arkansas and the powers that be know what I feel about that, if that's true. I highly doubt that Brandon Allen's out for the year. There's no reason, if Brandon Allen's out for the year, that Austin Allen's not playing. That's just and I think if he's out this week, that Austin Allen should be playing, because if Brandon Allen, I mentioned this on Wednesday, if Brandon Allen is out for the 3 quarters of the Southern Miss game, the whole Rutgers game, the whole Texas A&M game, and perhaps even the next game, you're giving 2.5 or 3 quarters to 3.5 games away to A.J. Derby when Austin Allen's sitting there with the red shirt on. What do you think's more valuable? A red shirt year where you don't get to do much but maybe practice with the scout team, or live action against Southern Miss, Rutgers, Texas A&M? You get to ease in as a freshman too, and I say ease in, relatively speaking, you could have eased in to SEC conference action. You could have been, a couple years from now when Brandon's not here, prepared mentally for what it's going to take because you've been in there. Now Austin Allen's going to try to come in next year or whenever he's able to play and whenever he can possibly win the job, and we don't know if he ever will. And he's going to have to try to win the job and then get in there and experience all these things he could have experienced this year. So the extent of Brandon Allen's injury, and I've said this from the very beginning, is going to tell a lot about where I stand on the coach's decision to play A.J. Derby. I think we've all pretty much come to the conclusion as Razorback fans and media members that A.J. Derby is at best a stopgap. I don't want to go into how mad I would be if it comes out that A.J. Derby only started because of his family's relationship with the Bielemas. You want to talk about upset. We got the good old boy system coming on in Arkansas in less than a year. I would be very upset. Now, I know this is conjecture. This is just this is my opinion, like I said. But I'll be very interested to see at the end of this season what's true, and then I'll try to form my opinion there. I don't want to influence anybody one way or the other. We've already got fans jumping off cliffs, hypothetically, theoretically speaking, as far as their opinion on Brett Bielema. I was listening to a show the other day, and a guy said, I think he should be fired. They were 3-0. It was before the Rutgers game. He said, I think he should be fired already. It's like, why? Oh, it's just funny the way people think. So, anyway, we'll talk more Arkansas Razorbacks here in just a minute. But before we get started with that, I say get started, we already did a little bit. Let's take a look at our Peters Family Living local sports look. Got a lot of high school action this Friday night. Across the River Valley, our 10 teams that we cover are going to be taking on big conference rivals, just rivals in general, as we begin in Conway with the Russellville Cyclones taking on the Conway Wampus Cats, some mythical creature. You ought to be able to beat a mythical creature, Russellville. I know from reading Twitter and from checking on Facebook that these kids are very hyped about this game. They're very excited to play the Conway Wampus Cats. And it's one of those things, when you play a rival, you don't need any extra motivation. But the student section Twitter accounts have been going back and forth at one another, or they had the last few months, talking about, you got just basically rivalry stuff. Some stuff that you probably shouldn't put on Twitter, and some stuff that is not necessarily PC. But it's been fun. It's a rivalry. And Friday night in Conway, Russellville's trying to get right. They're 3-0. They're one of only two teams in 6A with Greenwood that is 6-0, or that is 3-0, excuse me. And they take on a huge rival. I told you on Wednesday that I was in Conway 2 years ago when Russellville and Conway played, and everybody in Russellville is expecting this great game, and it was ugly from the very start. We were live streaming the game, and I was up with the announce crew, and they were doing everything they could to make it sound pretty, but Conway put a hurting on Russellville, and I feel like Russellville last year it was a closer game. This year, the Cyclones finally may have an advantage as far as talent goes. If you've watched the skill position players, especially for Russellville, and I've been very impressed with their defense as well, but I focus more, I'm a passing game guy. I love to watch the passing game, and Coach Holt is brilliant at it. He puts Cody Jones in great position as a quarterback. He's got a slew of talented offensive weapons behind him. You've got Kentrell Scott as a running back who very, very good out of the backfield, catching the ball, running the ball, doing everything. Jalen Curtis, probably the biggest name of the crew at wide receiver. He's going to be playing college ball somewhere next year. You've got a junior in Cochise Temple Laws who came in last year as a sophomore and just made big play after big play. He's done the exact same thing this year. He's sort of benefited by the fact that Cody looks for Jalen Curtis so often, and the teams understand who Jalen is, so they try to take him away. And then if they try to take away Kentrell and Jalen, there's Cochise flying down the field, and he can run too like a deer. And they throw it deep to him. He makes plays. And then when they shut all those three down, you've got two more guys who are just unbelievably talented. Junior Tony Jones, who I've he followed me on Twitter. I followed him on Twitter, and we began to talk back and forth. He was down on himself a couple weeks ago because he dropped a pass that he believed was going to be a touchdown, and he was just talking on Twitter about, man, what am I going to do? I dropped the pass, and I'm not getting the opportunities anymore because I dropped the pass. We talked about it, and I was like, hey, man, just keep your head up. You'll be fine. The next game, he catches a big touchdown pass, and it was actually one of those things where they ran him on a little drag across the middle, and he caught it. I think it was third down, and he outran somebody to the corner, and it was just a nice play by Tony Jones. He's just a very, very talented young man. He's going to make big plays for the Cyclones for the next 2 years. And then you've got Drew Smith, the talented tight end, and I was listening to a recruiting guru talk about him, and he said of all the players on Russellville's team, Cody Jones and all these other weapons, Drew Smith might be the most highly recruited guy of all of them. He's a very talented blocking tight end who is also able to stretch the field. He'll remind you of Hunter Henry if you ever watched him play. Now, he's not as big or as fast or strong right now. He may have to develop into that, but Hunter Henry was one of the top 100 recruits in the country, and Drew Smith is a very, very talented tight end for the Cyclones. So I'm looking forward to watching Russellville and Conway on Friday night. Hope that the Cyclones are able to get that win. Pottsville, we talked to Coach Brian Rust on Wednesday or on Monday, and he told us, have I been calling this Friday all day? I think I have. I think I said something about Wednesday. Everything that I said before this about Wednesday, I meant Monday. because it's Wednesday today. Well, we talked to Coach Brian Rust on Monday, and he told us about the season so far. So if you haven't seen that, you can go to rivervalleyleader.com and check out our archives for that show. But he's got Subiaco Academy coming up this week. The Pottsville Apaches in the 4A. There's only 2 teams in the entirety of 4A who have scored more points than the Apaches. Michael Perry leading that squad. Coach Rust talked about Tanner Weaver, a fullback and big cog in their running game. They've always got a good running game. That's Coach Rust's mentality. They run the dead T, and they just pound you. And when they get you to crowd the box, then they just dump one over the top. And they score touchdowns in the passing game that way. It's fun to watch, although I'm not much of a running game guy, to watch a team that can just methodically move it down the field if they want to, and then every once in a while they'll pull a little naked bootleg and Michael Perry's running around the outside and you just didn't see it coming, or you see a play action and then he throws it over the top, and it's really fun to watch them when they're really going well. Their defense is playing well as well. I talked about Michael Perry, and he had an interception return for a touchdown a couple weeks ago, so he's playing safety there. And we mentioned in the interview how he's got a big decision to make. Sometimes you come out and you watch him play football and you think, man, this is the best player on the field, and he may be the best player in all of 4A in football, and then you go to the basketball court and he just led his team to a 4A state championship and was the state MVP. So he's got a tough decision on his mind, or on his hands. Does he want to go play defensive back at a lower Division I school? Does he want to go play quarterback at a lower, maybe Division II or Division III school, or does he want to go play point guard at Arkansas Tech or somewhere else as a basketball player? It's going to be interesting what Perry decides, and I believe it all comes down to not only how well he plays in both of the sports, but when he makes that decision. So we'll follow that, and I've talked with him off and on, and I don't want to put him on the record yet, but he's got a couple of different options, a lot of different options, and we'll be interested to see where he ends up. Dardanelle, we talked to Coach Price the other day, and he's got Dover on the schedule this week. He is just right now, the Dardanelle Sand Lizards are just trying to tread water. I know this sounds bad. They're going to continue to try to win, obviously. They beat Clarksville last week, but here in a couple weeks, their quarterback, I think his name is Thompson, will be able to come back. He's a transfer from Pulaski Robinson, was doing great things for the Sand Lizards before he got hurt. He broke his arm in the Mayflower game, and he's got 4 to 5 weeks probably before he can come back. That's down to 3 or 4 now after this happening 2 weeks ago. But they've got Dover this week. They want to get a win. Presumably they'll be able to do that. Dover's got a lot of trouble right now. When I say trouble, they're not anything legal trouble or discipline trouble or anything like that. They're just short on players and just a little bit down right now at Dover. But Dardanelle wants to tread water and continue to compete in this 4A4 conference. They've got Pottsville, they've got Boonville, they've got Maumelle. They've got a tough conference ahead of them, so they want to just tread water this week. Clarksville traveling to Alma. Alma is going to be trying their best to bounce back from a loss to Russellville, and really Alma looked pretty good last week. They lost 17-7 to Russellville, but the week before they lost 47-7 to Greenwood. So they're going to try to get right against Clarksville at home. So that's going to be a tough environment for the Panthers to walk into. Atkins got a 26-13 win over Two Rivers. They've got Cedarville this week. I've heard good things about Cedarville and how tough they're going to be, but Atkins gets them at home, so maybe that home field advantage will carry them on to 4-0. The Two Rivers Gators traveling to Horatio. Lamar is hosting Lavaca. Talked with a Lamar player last night and this morning also, and he's expecting that they're going to be able to play well against Lavaca. The one thing that scares me with these Lamar Warriors is they're sort of new to being, I don't want to call them a bully on the block, but to being a very successful team. And I'm not saying that they won't handle it well, but you always wonder with those types of teams when they think we're good. If somebody can bring them back down to earth, especially somebody that they don't expect. They're already looking to Cedarville and to Atkins and Paris, and really the big one is Charleston. So I'm hoping that Lamar is able to keep their focus this week and get a win against Lavaca. We mentioned Dover. They're hosting Dardanelle this week. Danville is at Charleston. Tall test. and in more ways than one, for the Danville Little Johns. They've got Ty Story, former future Arkansas Razorback, and a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. And Danville hopes to go down there and upset the Tigers. And then Hector travels to Western Yale County, so that's going to be a big game for the Wildcats, who will look to go, I believe, to 4-1 on the year. They've got a game more than everybody else under their right now, because they've played a Tuesday, Friday, and that was a tough turnaround for them. When they played, I think it was Hackett or Hartford on a Tuesday, and turned around and played Two Rivers on a Friday, so that was a tough one for them. But they're looking to go ahead and win another game in the 2A against the Western Yale County Wolverines. As we head to break, we'll let you know about Arkansas Tech. 2-1 in the Raymond Monica era. They travel to Nicholls State on Saturday. They take on what's Nicholls State's mascot? I'm just drawing a blank now. They kick off at 6 o'clock, though. If you want to go to athletics.atu.edu, you can listen to Sam Straisner and the voice of the Wonder Boys call the Arkansas Tech game against Nicholls State. We look for that one to be a good one as well. We've got plenty more on the Sports Blitz. Stay with us.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
I know this is a sports show, and I'm here to talk sports, but I know a lot of you are TV fans, and if you're anything like me, you watch a lot of shows. Last night I watched NCIS, and they're about to say goodbye to Ziva David, and I might cry when they do. But there was a show I said goodbye to on Sunday, and I just want you to, this is a public service announcement, take this as a PSA. If you watch Dexter and you haven't watched the finale yet, don't. Just imagine something in your mind, a beautiful ending, a painful ending, a terrible ending, however you want to do it. Just don't watch the ending. I'm still shaking from it, still upset. And I did just tell Emily I would talk about this on the sports show, even though she said I wouldn't. So here we go. Anyway, thank you for joining us today on the Sports Blitz. This really is the Sports Blitz, and I did just waste a minute of your time, but we've got 59 other ones to get after sports. So thank you today for joining us. We're here in the Cogswell Motors studio. My name's Mark Freeman. If you don't know who I am and what I'm doing here, I'm the sports director and managing editor here at rivervalleyleader.com. Wanted to look real quickly. We'll get to college football and the Razorbacks after the next break, but I want to look real quickly at our power rankings in the NFL. If you're anything like me and you play fantasy football, my teams have just been terrible. And historically, I've never really won one of these leagues, and I feel like it's sort of a karma thing. No, I don't necessarily believe in karma per se, but the first year I ever played fantasy football, I had a really good team, and I got all the way to the finals, and I realized Peyton Manning is my quarterback, and the Colts had planned to sit him and not play him in the final game of the regular season. Well, that was the finals. So I said, no, forget this. I'm not going to lose because my quarterback's not playing. I was the commissioner of the league. I turned off the trade limit. I turned off the trade deadline, and I said, hey, one of my friends who was already out of the league, I said, hey, trade me all your good players. and I traded him all my bench warmers who weren't going to play in the finals. And I got this stacked team. I did it on like a Wednesday, and the guy I was playing against, it was actually Brad, I believe. No, it was Sean Caldwell, who's a former host, co-host of the Sports Blitz. He found out about it, and he went to somebody else and did the same thing, and we played two stacked squads against each other in the finals. I lost. And I feel like since then I have been punished by the fantasy football gods for my transgression, and my fantasy teams have done really well. I've drafted a good team. People have gotten hurt, or get to the finals and such isn't playing, or such and such comes in and takes 5 snaps, 2 runs as a running back, or 0 targets as a wide receiver, and just gets out of the game, and I lose. And this year is no different. As I've seen so far, my fantasy teams are struggling, and it's because the NFL has been so topsy-turvy this year. My power rankings are an excellent example of how and why. Coming into the season, I had San Francisco number 1. I think I had Atlanta number 2 just because of the sheer number and volume of talented offensive weapons they had, and the balance that I felt like they had enough on defense to be better than my third team, which I believe was Green Bay. So I had 3 NFC teams there, and then I had the Colts, or not the Colts, Peyton Manning. I was talking about the Colts a minute ago. The Denver Broncos, because I didn't feel that they had just lost an offensive lineman, I believe is their center for the season. They had lost Von Miller for 6 games. They still had Champ Bailey out at corner, and he's 400 years old and was getting torched in the playoffs by the Ravens. I felt like that the Broncos were enough of a question mark that they warranted moving down in my top 5. And then I don't even remember who I had number 5. I think Seattle maybe was in my top 5, but as the weeks have gone on, the NFC has proven to be a lot weirder than I expected it, and the NFC or the AFC has been pretty much tough, like it has been in the past several years. But last weekend we saw that the AFC just dominated the NFC in matchups, head-to-head matchups. And as we look at the standings right now, you've got the New England Patriots and Miami Dolphins. That's a surprise at 3-0 atop the AFC East. The New York Jets, who Mark Sanchez gets hurt, Geno Smith comes in, leads them to a couple wins, 2-1 right now. And Buffalo, 1-2, not as bad as that record indicates because they had New England on the ropes. E.J. Manuel has played pretty well up to this point, and it's just, now you may have had these teams in this order, but the way they've played so far, it seems a little odd. New England has been so off on offense. Tom Brady has not been his normal self as far as just flinging it around, and it's because he doesn't have the options on the offensive side of the football, the wide receivers, the tight ends. No Gronk, obviously no Hernandez. Wes Welker's in Denver. Brandon, I think it was Brandon Lloyd was cut. And they've got Danny Amendola, who gets hurt in the first game, hasn't played since. You've got Julian Edelman, who is basically a mini Danny Amendola, Wes Welker type. Can't really take the punishment, but he's done pretty well when he's had the opportunity. Kimbrell Tompkins has been their main receiver. don't really have a whole lot of options on the wide receiving core there for New England, so they've been a lot different. No Gronk, he should be back in the next couple weeks, but they've only scored 59 points through 3 games. I mean, that's less than 20 points a game for Tom Brady when he's normally throwing 2-3 touchdown passes at least a game, but they have won all 3 games, so they've survived so far. Then you've got in the AFC North the Cincinnati Bengals, who a lot of people did have winning that division. They've been very, very tough, a very talented roster. They picked up James Harrison in the offseason. The defense has been very, very good. Got Green Bay this last week, and that was a big game for them. They're leading the division. The Baltimore Ravens, who some of us, like me, expected to take a step back. I didn't even have them in my top 10 power rankings to start the season. They're 2-1. Cleveland's 1-2. Pittsburgh, been a big surprise. They're 0-3. Then you look at the AFC South. Houston 2-1. Tennessee 2-1. Indianapolis 2-1. And Jacksonville 0-3. Not really a big surprise amongst those, except that Tennessee has looked to be a lot tougher than I expected them to be. Houston's been absolutely lucky twice to come back and win, and this last week the Ravens just handled them. And then in the AFC West, you've got Denver, Kansas City, Oakland, and San Diego. Denver 3-0. Most of us expected them to start the season 3-0. Kansas City, I don't know if anybody expected them to start the season 3-0. They beat my Cowboys, as I mentioned. They got a big win this weekend as well. They're going to have a tough one on their hands this week. But 3-0 to start the season, it's just been, to my point, an example of a topsy-turvy league, which, the NFL loves parity. They love for teams to go up and down. They love for every year you to not absolutely know what's happening coming into the season. Last year, New Orleans with Sean Payton out, the year-long suspension. How many head coaches did New Orleans have last year? That should be a trivia question because I don't even know. They had 4 or 5 guys that were named the acting head coach for a game or a day or a minute or whatever they were. But they're 3-0 to start the year. They've got that stabilizing force back. Rob Ryan has instituted a defense that has taken hold. They were one of historically the worst defenses ever last year. Now they've given up 38 points through 3 games, scored 70, and they're 3-0. Atlanta 1-2. They were in my top 5 last year to begin the year, the Chicago Bears, 3-0 in the NFC North. Seattle, absolutely dominant so far. 2 of those 3 games at home, though. In the NFC West, they're 3-0, and San Francisco's down there at 1-2. So it's just one of those things where if you could have told me 3 weeks ago that this was how the standings were going to be, I'd say, no, you're crazy. That's absolutely not how it's going to be. Green Bay is not going to be 1-2. San Francisco is not going to be 1-2. The Washington Redskins are not going to be 0-3, and the New York Giants are not going to look as terrible as they looked last week to go to 0-3. They gave up 38 points, did not score a point Sunday. So the NFL has just been wildly crazy as far as predictability is concerned, which is great for the league, great for them, but not good for my power rankings. And with all that said, let's go through my power rankings right now. I've got at number 5, the New Orleans Saints. They're a team that I feel like can make a jump up the ladder here if they're able to sustain this defensive effort. Now, last year, it was one of those things where everything that could go wrong did. It was a Murphy's Law year for the New Orleans Saints last year because no quarterback, they had Drew Brees, no coach, no defense. They might as well have put 11 guys in blindfolds out there because they were horrible last year. So everything didn't necessarily have to go right this year. They just had to eliminate some of the stupidity. It was a comedy of errors last year for New Orleans on defense. So I feel like they've sort of come back to earth, and that to move up my power rankings, they're going to have to prove it over a year-long, schedule here. So we'll see how New Orleans is able to do. Number 4, I've got New England. You may have asked, what in the world do you have New England above New Orleans for when New England sort of looked, and New Orleans has looked very good? The reason is New England's doing this without their talent. They don't have Gronk. They don't have Amendola for 2 of those games. They've got Vereen out, I think, for the year. There's just so many different injuries on the offensive side of the ball. The defense has basically carried New England so far. So I see them when they get Gronk back, and that's a big if, I know, Amendola gets and stays healthy. they're back to being loaded on offense, and you put that with a defense that's looking a lot better. New England, to me, has a higher ceiling than New Orleans. Now, I'm not Skip Bayless saying they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything, but I do think they have a higher ceiling. At number 3 is a team that this is where I can begin the argument. The top 2 teams were easy. 3 through 5 was tough, and I would debate you on any one of these, and I probably wouldn't be able to argue too much if you wanted to switch any of these bottom 3. I've got the Chicago Bears. Jay Cutler was sacked 4,312. As a matter of fact, Jay Cutler just got sacked again last year. He was just sacked he was on his back all year long. And this year so far, I think through 3 games last year, he'd been sacked 11 times. And this year, he's been sacked 3 times through 3 games. 1 time a game for an offense that wants to fling it around a little bit. And Mark Trestman, a new quarterback, it looks really, really good right now. Brandon Marshall's still very talented. The question was never about Jay Cutler's arm strength. It was about the decisions that he made. Trestman has got him to buy in to making better decisions, smarter decisions. And with a defense that you saw it last week, I think they had 2 defensive touchdowns, and at the very worst had one. I know I almost said Urlacher, but Julius Peppers had a fumble return for a touchdown. The defense is still playing at a high level. If the offense can keep them off the field and make better decisions with the quarterback play, you've got Matt Forte, you've got Brandon Marshall, you've got Alshon Jeffrey, you've got some talent there on the offensive side of the ball. The Chicago Bears are a talented and dangerous team there in the NFC North, and I've saved the best for last as far as the divisions go. I've talked about Dallas and how I'm a Cowboys fan, obviously. I do feel like, and I was very facetious when I said I've saved the best for last, because I think the NFC East is the worst conference in football, the worst division in football right now. The Dallas Cowboys 2-1, Philadelphia 1-2, Washington and the New York Giants both 0-3. I think Dallas is going to win a battle of attrition for the first place spot there, the division title in the NFC East. And it's sort of a shame that you go and look at the AFC and how deep some of these conferences are going to be, and you're going to have teams that with 9-10 wins that won't make the playoffs. Dallas is going to struggle to get to 9, in my opinion, because they've got a tough schedule, but they play in a conference or a division right now that Philadelphia is just not looking great. The offense has been up and down. Washington on defense, especially in the first half, has just been horrible, and RG3 has just not looked like himself. And the New York Giants, I have no idea. If you can tell me what's wrong with the New York Giants, you can come sit right here in this chair, and you can have a headset and a microphone, and you can be on the show with me every week, because there is no explanation for how bad they are. But moving up my power rankings, my top 2 teams, to me, have been head and shoulders above everybody else. This is an AFC team and an NFC team, and if there was a Super Bowl today, these 2 teams would be in it. It's the Seattle Seahawks and the Denver Broncos. I've got at number 2 the Seattle Seahawks, number 1 the Denver Broncos. You could argue that those 2 teams ought to be switched, but both teams have played 2 games at home. I would love to see the Seattle Seahawks and the Denver Broncos play in a neutral location. Seattle is so buoyed by that crowd is talented, by that home crowd that is just insane. They register on the Richter scale when they go crazy. You remember a couple years ago when Marshawn Lynch had that touchdown run against the New Orleans Saints, the noise level in that place registered on the Richter scale. The first game against San Francisco, the first home game for Seattle, they said that they broke a decibel record for sporting event for noise. So the Seattle crowd has been a huge factor, and I didn't know that it was even possible to be that big of a factor on anything other than NCAA, where I remember playing, and they used to have the crowd noise that would shake your controller, and you would go and you would call the right play, you would make the right pass, and somebody would catch it, turn around, and just fumble because the crowd was loud. It's been a big difference for Seattle so far. So as good as that defense has been, and as beast mode as Marshawn Lynch is, Russell Wilson and that zone read offense hasn't been as fluid this year. And I know I'm picking nits here with a team that's 3-0 and has looked dominant, but when you look at the flip side and I take Denver number 1, Peyton Manning's completing 73% of his passes. He's thrown 12 touchdowns. He's thrown no interceptions. He's thrown for 1,100 yards in 3 games. He's just looked absolutely unstoppable offensively for Denver. And I know a lot of you will say, well, he does that every year. He looks unstoppable every year. And then in the playoffs, something happens, and I would agree. Until he can do it with this team, sort of like what we said with the Colts. You know, you've put up all these records and then you can't win a Super Bowl. Goes and wins one, and then the same stuff sort of starts happening again after that. And then last year in Denver, crazy play that causes him to lose that game against the, I say causes him. It didn't help anything. They had overtime and they had another possession, but they weren't able to overcome the Ravens. Ravens go on to win the Super Bowl. Denver right now, though, looks at a different level offensively. They're going to get Von Miller back in 3 weeks, presumably, if he can get his crap together. And they're going to have a talented defense. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, eventually Champ Bailey on the other side. As long as they don't have to have Champ Bailey covering Anquan Bolden, I think they'll be all right because last year he just ate him up, and Torrey Smith did too. So I think Denver and Seattle are a cut above everybody right now. So I want to reserve judgment on some of these teams for later on. But as we look at the power rankings right now, I've got Denver 1, Seattle 2, Chicago 3, New England 4, and New Orleans number 5. Do you agree or disagree? Give us a call at 968-NEWS to let me know what you think. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/sportsblitz. But whatever you do, don't leave. We're going to come back and we're going to look at college football, LSU, Georgia, and we're also going to look at Arkansas, Texas A&M.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
KRK4 today.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Welcome back to the Sports Blitz. We are giving away 2 Pottsville Apaches football tickets for this Friday night's game against Subiaco. All you have to do to be entered to win is bring me a $100 bill today. Now, all you have to do is go to facebook.com/RVL News. Like our Facebook page, you'll find out about a sweet little deal we've got going on. One of our advertisers, Roy's Heating and Air, does a very good job preparing your house and your system for summer or winter. He can do routine maintenance. He can fix big issues. He can deal with anything from single homes to large corporations, buildings, churches, schools, anything you need. Shane Butler can take care of you there. And we've got a little deal going on, so all you have to do is, and he's got a $10 coupon at roysheatingandair.com, and go to their Facebook page. All you have to do is find the link on our Facebook page, go like his page, share this little status on your Facebook wall, and you are entered to win on Friday. I will, after the show, or maybe I'll do it during the show. We'll see. We're just changing things. Live air right here. We'll announce a winner. I'll just randomly draw. All I have to do is make sure that you have liked his page and that you know about the good things that Roy's Heating and Air is able to do for you. And then we will draw a winner, and they'll get 2 tickets to go watch the Pottsville Apaches take on Subiaco Friday night. And we hope you will be interested in doing such. Regardless of whether you're a Pottsville Apache fan or anybody else, fan of anybody else in this area, Roy's will take care of you. So you need to go like their Facebook page. And if you need to get your system prepared for winter, they're the place to go. They're the people to call. Let me find you the number real quick, because I'd feel bad if I told you about them and then I didn't give you the phone number so that you could call them. I just tell you about them and then you have to go look them up. That would just be bad business. So let me look real quick. His name is Shane Butler, and he is the man over at Roy's Heating and Air. His phone number is 479-970-6826. You give him a call. Let him know that the Sports Blitz and RiverValleyLeader.com sent you. $10 off coupon for any service you go after. Let's look real quickly at college football. There are 4 big games this week, aside from the Razorback game, that I wanted to really get into today. You've got, obviously, LSU, Georgia. We'll save that one for a minute. Oklahoma, Notre Dame, number 14 versus number 22 in Golden Domers get the home field advantage. Notre Dame as Oklahoma comes in. Ole Miss and Alabama's getting a lot of pub right now, and then a lot of people are giving Ole Miss a chance to come in there and upset Alabama. I don't know. I'm one of those that until somebody, like I said numerous times, beats Alabama, I'm not going to bet on it ever. And legally, I'm not going to bet at all. But Wisconsin, Ohio State, number 23 Wisconsin Badgers, former home of Brett Bielema, taking on the number 4 Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State has the home field advantage there in the shoe. So those are some interesting games. The ones that I really wanted to look at, Ole Miss, Alabama. I think Ole Miss's offense, you've got talented guys, Laquan Treadwell. It's hard to say both of those names at the same time without thinking. He is a very, very talented freshman wide receiver, and I look forward to seeing him against an Alabama secondary that will be coached up by Nick Saban, will be 5-star former recruits, but have underperformed so far on the season, and he is as advertised. He looks like Des Bryant's little brother out there. He's just unbelievable for Ole Miss. Bo Wallace, the quarterback for Ole Miss, though, I don't know about him. Jeff Scott, very, very talented as a sort of a Ontario McCaleb, Felix Jones type guy. Not quite as strong or good as Felix Jones, so I'm just trying to give you a little bit more of a idea of who he is. But he's another weapon for Ole Miss. I look forward to seeing how Alabama responds to another fast-paced offense. They're not going to see Johnny Football out there, so I don't expect Ole Miss to just go up there and ring the scoreboard up. But I do expect for it to be a close game for at least a little while. It's obviously going to start that way. I think it's still going to start 0-0. But Alabama, I feel like, has the advantage. You've got A.J. McCarron, who is so underrated. Going for 3 national championships, and he goes from game manager to, don't lose us the game to, all right, AJ, you can throw for 250 to 300 a game and be a factor. And not only are you going to have TJ Yeldon and guys that they Drake and even Alti Tenpenny at the running back position, Fowler, they've got just a bevy of running backs, but then they've got some talented wide receivers, Amari Cooper and some of those guys that are out there on the edges to really give Alabama an offensive punch as well. I think Alabama's going to be too much for Ole Miss this week. I'd be interested to see what the spread is on that game, because I don't know who's being favored right now, and although I wouldn't bet on the games, it's interesting to see because these Vegas guys know exactly what they're doing to get money on both sides. And they look at matchups, they look at style of play, they look at all kinds of different things. And right now the point spread is at about 15.5 in favor of Alabama. That would be I might bet, if I were to do that, I might take Ole Miss, because I don't know that Alabama's going to beat them by more than 2 touchdowns. But right at about 2 touchdowns would probably be close for me. I will get to the Arkansas-Texas A&M game here in a minute, because that spread I just saw still is baffling to me. But the game of the week, I think, and everybody that's not a Razorback fan would definitely agree, LSU and Georgia, between the hedges. I told you on Monday that I'd take LSU by 1 point, just because Georgia's going to have a home field advantage, and they've got a very talented offensive football team, but LSU has just looked really good for the most part, aside from some defensive lapses late in the Auburn game last week. You've got LSU as a 3-point favorite going into Georgia, or actually no, I think I'm seeing here that LSU is a 3-point underdog. Wow. Either way, I think it's going to be a close game. I would probably take LSU to win outright, but if they're getting points, I'd definitely take that. But LSU and Georgia is going to be a good game, man. You're going to see two SEC football teams and SEC football at its best. You know, everybody talks about how the SEC, why is the SEC so much better? Well, when these two teams play and they beat up on each other, and then the next week both of them play somebody else and they beat up on each other, and the next week and they go through this grind, and then they come out at the end and they play some team that, you know, hasn't played anybody, or they've played one big game, and then this SEC team's been beat down, you know, over the year. Not only, you know, they may have to deal with injuries and that type of thing, but they've been through it. And when they get to a bowl game, and when they get to late in the season against one of these other teams that hasn't, when the bullets start flying, man, it's just not such a big surprise to the SEC team, and that's when they normally come out ahead. I expect that the SEC is going to get another championship, so if you're not on board with me on that, that's fine. That's your opinion. You can be just as wrong as the next guy. But moving on to the Arkansas game, we mentioned the 3.5 point spread, or the 3-point spread. I, for the life of me, cannot understand why Texas A&M is only a 3-point favorite to Arkansas. The only thing, it's a combination of two things, but the only reason that I don't think that the odds makers have given Texas A&M a 20-plus point differential in this game is because they feel like Arkansas is going to be able to run the ball very effectively at home against Texas A&M. Coming off a loss where Rutgers basically shut down the run against Arkansas. You watched Alex Collins and you watched Jonathan Williams get stuffed at the line more than once. They had a tough time running the football. I think Alex Collins had 60 yards. I'm looking at the stats here, or I'm trying to get to the stats here if my computer will cooperate. But you had a tough time against a Rutgers defensive line, although they were a good defensive front that is one of the tops in the country as far as yards per game rushing allowed. But Arkansas only got 101 rushing yards against them. Alex Collins, 63 yards on a 3.9 average. That would be good, decent in the NFL, but when you're averaging 6-7 yards a carry for the most part for Alex Collins, it sort of brings up some issues in my mind because I expected them to be able to run the ball a little better than that. I thought Rutgers' defense was a little overrated rather than right where they needed to be. But Texas A&M coming up this week, they expect, I'm assuming, that the odds makers expect Arkansas to be able to get right running the football because Texas A&M has been giving up 30 points a game and just giving up a ton of rushing yards on the year. They rush for 211 yards and pass for 391 yards a game. That is 600 total yards a game for Texas A&M, but they give up a whole lot of rushing yards. So I'm assuming that the folks who made these odds are expecting that at home in Fayetteville, the Razorbacks will be able to run the ball, grind the clock, and keep the ball away from Texas A&M enough to keep this at a close game. I'll just go ahead and say on record, I hope they're right. If Arkansas is able to have their way, Texas A&M won't be able to get 600 total yards because they won't have the ball enough. Arkansas would have to put points on the board, and they would have to move the ball and get first downs, which when you don't have a quarterback who can make a simple throw across the middle or, turn the tight end around for 10 yards and hit him, it's kind of tough. And we saw last week that A.J. Derby struggled with that. Maybe this week he hits those throws. Maybe that he calms down. And if he's able to do that, maybe Arkansas can move the ball well enough to keep Texas A&M honest against the pass. Because if they're loading the box and stopping Alex Collins, saying, Alex Collins, Jonathan Williams, you're not going to beat us, the passing game's going to have to do it, I find it hard to believe that A.J. Derby is going to be able to do that. Just being honest, if there's 8-9 man fronts, Arkansas is not going to have a chance. If they're able to do that and Arkansas is not going to take it, make them pay for it, it's going to be a long day because the passing game is just not there yet. If Brandon Allen were playing, I still would take Texas A&M to win this game, but I would think that Arkansas would have a whole lot better chance than I did a couple weeks ago. But like they said, 3 points means that it's going to be a good game up there on the hill. And if these odds makers are right, and if the people who think they know what they're talking about are correct, well, you're going to see a good one in Fayetteville. And if Arkansas is in position to win the game, it's a lot more than some of us could have asked for coming off a loss to Rutgers. 28-24 when you're up 24-7. A lot of us just have a bad taste in our mouths right now. So I'm looking to see some better quarterback play this week. I find it hard to believe that a guy who could play Division I quarterback in A.J. Derby, and I gave him a lot of trouble on Monday, that he can't play better than he did. Now, his numbers weren't terrible, but there were easy throws that he missed. And the more I've calmed down, the more I've come down from my anger about him missing guys, throwing it 10 feet over their head in wide open routes, the more I feel like his energy level and his excitement, and the announcer sort of touched on this, will come back down a level, and he's going to be able to hit some of those throws. And if he does that, and they don't necessarily have to go to some of these gadget plays, and I'd like to see them continue to do those. Those are fun to me. I like watching those things work. When they don't work, you look like an idiot, but I'm all right with the risk. But if they don't have to do so much of that because A.J. Derby is completing passes and whoever is playing quarterback is able to keep the other team honest and keep guys out of the box, I do believe that Arkansas's running game behind Travis Swanson, behind a offensive line that can run block pretty well right now with Alex Collins and Jonathan Williams, has enough punch to make this a tough game. But it just remains to be seen if the quarterback can keep Texas A&M honest. On Friday, we'll give you some predictions. We'll get you score predictions and stats and what we expect to see. But I'll just be honest with you, I'm having a hard time talking myself into giving Arkansas a chance in this game. I want to, and like I've heard from all kinds of people across the state so far this week, I really want Arkansas to win, but I have a hard time seeing how that's going to be possible, knowing how you've got the Heisman Trophy winner on the other side of the ball. You've got Johnny Manziel, who nobody can tackle, and Alabama for 2 years has tried to stop and has had no luck whatsoever at stopping. It's just going to be hard when you feel like you're going to struggle to stop somebody and you feel like you're going to score, have a struggle or have trouble scoring yourself. I'll learn how to talk between now and Friday. But we've got plenty of stuff looking at high school football, college previews, Arkansas Razorbacks, and even some NFL. There'll be a Thursday game tomorrow night that we'll talk about. So we'll be back on Friday with more Sports Blitz. I'll try to break it up with some calls. We'll try to get some folks in here so that you don't have to hear my voice just drone on for an hour. But we appreciate you suffering through it today. Thank you for showing up and watching the Sports Blitz here on RiverValleyLeader.com. We'll be back at 11 o'clock on Friday. For Emily, I'm Mark. So long. You guys have a good day.